I didn't get a chance to really listen to the other one to see how it affected it.
Oh,
So, but I'll listen to it.
okay.
Ready?
Hmm.
Yep.
You are now tuned in to Today with Pastor Jay on WNZF News Radio, where we discuss inspiring and informative news. And now here's your host, Pastor Jerlyn Denny.
Good morning. Good morning. Wake up. Good morning. Welcome to Today with Pastor Jay, where inspiration meets action and everyday stories become extraordinary. And today's conversation reaches across borders into the heart of mission and the soul of service. My highly esteemed guest is none other than the Honorable Will Furry. He is the chair of the Flagler County School Board, but today he's here talking about his recent mission trip to Guatemala, where he was accompanied by one of his sons. What he discovered, what he gave, and what he received. We're going to unpack all of it today. So, Will, just start us off. What led you to take a mission trip to Guatemala? And I think you've been there before, huh? Yay?
Yeah, this was not my first trip to Guatemala.
Oh,
Actually,
yeah. You just keep going back,
well,
right?
once you get the bug of serving the Lord, He keeps calling you into things and back to things. So, this my journey started back in 2017, and I that first trip was life changing to me, and just brought a whole new perspective to serving God and actually answering the calling of the Great Commission and going and sharing the word of Christ throughout the world. Go and tell everyone about me, And so that was a turning point, and I returned several years after that, and up until 2019, that was my last trip, and then I was supposed to go on the one in 2020, and then COVID happened, right?
Everybody has that COVID story that kind of stopped everything, right?
Right. So that
Yeah.
just paused international travel. It put a squelch on mission trips and all travel for that matter. And then I decided to run for school board. So that took up some time.
Right.
But then, some time had come around, and, God called me back into this. And it was a wonderful opportunity for the timing, because my son now reached the age that the church said, he's reached an age of maturity, and he'd been wanting to go on a mission trip since we first started going. So this was a great opportunity to take my son Jack, who's now 14.
So this was part of a larger organization, but then it became something personal because now you were able to um, bring your son with you. So, what was your first impressions this trip upon arriving?
Well, that's the interesting thing about a mission trip. You prepare, you plan, but you got to wait to see what God's gonna where He's gonna take you in His
Hmm.
service. And every mission trip looks a little different than the last. And this one was the same thing. There was there was a moment where um, I was supposed to do food service to the ladies that were receiving a ministry from other ladies. And in Guatemala, women are not treated very well by men, and so for them to be served by men was a big deal,
Oh,
right?
oh
So
yeah.
myself and others were about ready to serve them lunch, and then these two little girls came up to me, and they kept saying "columpios, columpios, columpios," and I'm like, I don't know what that is. And they just were drawn to me, and they were relentless. They were not going to let me go. And I brought the translator over, and they go, "Oh, that's the swings." So they wanted me to take them on the swing set. And then so these girls adopted me for the next 2 days. I could not. So again, I was called to go here, but
Hmm.
then God took me in a different direction.
Hmm.
And the follow up to that, which was another God moment, is later on we went out into the community to deliver water filters that are badly needed, food baskets, Bibles, and we don't know where we're going at that point. And that was at a different time. And sure enough, we knocked on the door, and it was the home of that little girl.
Uh oh.
Right. So, I mean, there's no coincidence in life. God made that connection for that to
Wow.
happen.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So, what kind of other work were you involved in while you were there?
Well, we did the women's ministry. We worked with the children's ministry. The children's ministry, what we did was we were trying to help teach the kids skills, because an education in Guatemala is not free. I mean, although technically it's free, but you have to buy a uniform, you have to buy your books, you have to buy. So if you don't have the money to do that, you're not going to school. And most families, for a hard day's labor on a hillside farming makes about $3 a day, not an
Oh,
hour,
wow.
but day. So if they can afford to send a child in their household, it will be one. And if it is a child, when the child can go, it'll be a boy. So girls don't get a lot of skills either. So
Hmm.
we focused on skills, and with the boys, we did woodworking, and we taught them how to use the saws and the drills, and they made step stools and to completion with staining and everything. And then the girls, they were in the kitchen, being taught how to cook in a way that they could work in a kitchen or something along those lines, or also support their family with that skill as well.
Tell us about your son. Now,
Yeah.
how how did he experience this trip?
Yeah, so it was really awesome to see him grow in his faith.
Hmm.
I'm very proud of him. He serves his community. He serves at church. He serves in the student ministry now, even as a teenager. And so, but we went down there, and some of his peers also went on the trip as well. And with teenagers, you wonder how they're going to behave. And
Hmm.
but I'm so proud of all of them, including my son, that when it was time to do the Lord's work, they were on task, focused, and got it done. And then they had their goof off time in our off peak time, but when it was time to serve, they
It was
were on it.
time to
So I'm
serve.
very proud of him, and some of the things that he got to experience. And when you come back from a mission trip, you really reflect on the blessings that you have in your life, because we're
Hmm.
going into communities that people live a lot differently than we do here in the States.
How did you prepare before you left? How did the two of you prepare spiritually? Um, because you knew what to expect, and even logistically, how did you prepare beforehand before you left?
Yeah, so we attend Epic Church, and one thing that I really commend Epic on when it comes to these mission trips, they are very big on making sure short-term missionaries are prepared to go, and so that training starts about 6 months before we leave, and we meet every month, and there are different challenges and growth strategies, and we practice things like our testimony. And so we're really prepared to go down there and do what we need to do, and prayer is a big part of that, individually and as a group. You want to fill yourself with the Holy Spirit, because you're going down to pour it out on the people of Guatemala, right? So it's important to stay tight with that.
All right, guys. Well, you're listening to Stay with Pastor Jay. When we return, more insights from Will Furry about faith in motion and what happens when leadership is rooted in service. Oh, you are getting good. You putting all the stuff in. You ready? I'm ready. Let's go. We're back with Will Ferry, sharing reflections from his recent trip to Guatemala. Now, I want to dive deep into what the experience taught you, not just about mission work, but about life. Was there a moment that tested your faith or brought unexpected emotion?
Mhm. There have been times, and I'm reflecting beyond this last mission trip,
Mm-hmm.
and really a story from a previous one would probably be better suited for that question. We had a situation where we had helped a family. We built a house for them, right? It's a very small house, but something that really improved their life. And then the next year we came back, and I said, I want to go visit this family. And so we had a little bit of time, so they said, okay, we can go over there. So we went to that little village, and I said, oh no, this is not the same one. This was the other one. I wanted to see the other lady. And then they said, well, at this point we don't have time to do that. And we're like, okay, so we'll go see the one that's here. So when we get there, the poor lady had a stroke. She's
Oh, wow.
bedridden, right? And it was at that moment we realized that it was no coincidence again that
Right.
we were sent here rather than the other house. So we prayed with this woman, lifted her spirit. She hadn't been out of the house in 6 months, hadn't had the sun on her
Oh,
face,
wow.
and so she was in real despair. And so we lifted her spirits and everything, and so then the next day, though, um, we were serving at a wheelchair ministry down there that gives wheelchairs to people in need. And we asked them, we said, hey, we know a lady that is bedridden right now that had a stroke. Could you give us a wheelchair for her? So sure enough, so we went back there with that wheelchair, blessed her with it, got her, and one of the ladies on our team was an occupational therapist, so she could get her off the bed and into the chair. And we took her outside, and she had not felt the sun for 6 months on her face. And we rolled her down to the little tienda, got her an orange soda, and she was just so happy. Um, and so the story doesn't end there. So I returned the following year, and we're building a house across from her.
Mm-hmm.
And who pops up from the fence line across the little dirt road is this lady named Olma. And she was healed. She was out of bed. She was standing. She could talk.
Oh,
So God
wow.
restored her. And to this day, she was there again. Remember, this started back in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I saw her again here in 2025, and she preaches the Lord. She gives him all the credit for it, and she's inspiring other women into faith.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. What did the people of Guatemala teach you? I mean, because you've been back
Uh,
and forth there quite a
yes,
bit,
they've taught me a lot.
and I mean, they've by now, I mean, their resiliency or something. I mean, they've had to teach you something.
Well, no doubt they're resilient people. They live in extreme poverty, especially the ones that we are helping.
Mm-hmm.
And what is just beautiful though, the community that they all band together and help each other out, right? This is the we're comparing our life to their life, right? This is all they know, right? The kids are still playing soccer with each other. They're laughing. They're telling jokes with each other.
Mm.
They just want to love you. When we go to the children's ministry, that's when that really tugs your heart with the little kids, and they come up and they just want love, and they come up and just give you the biggest hug. You can't speak to them. We don't understand each other in our language without a
Right.
translator. But the minute they just want to be loved, and that is the universal language is giving the love of Christ, and that's a common ground that we all have, no matter what language that we speak.
Did your son's perspective shift during the trip? And is this something that he was able to share with you?
Yes, he definitely shared with me. We did a little debrief, and he really realized that, number one, he recognized, how blessed he is, and but at the same time, he realized the need to serve beyond even what he's doing now. He feeling that God's calling him down that road. He's already talking about
Mm-hmm.
returning to Guatemala. He actually didn't really like Spanish in eighth grade
Mm-hmm.
at school.
Mm-hmm.
And now a little boy there said, you should speak Spanish. And the translator told him that. And he's like, so he's now got Babbel on his phone, and he
Wow.
wants to learn Spanish because of this trip.
So
So
this exposure to the different cultures and the service opportunities has shaped him in such a way now that he wants to learn Spanish. I
yeah,
mean, he didn't
but
like it before. Now all
right.
of a sudden he's seeing how useful that can be.
And he wants it for the reason to return there to communicate, not just
Hmm.
to learn it. He wants to have that skills. He wants to talk to those children and be able to communicate with them. So
Were there any unexpected challenges while traveling or serving abroad?
there can be. You have to be very flexible. Overall, the travel between is fairly safe, but you're in a country that is foreign to you, and there are uh, things that can happen, right? But fortunately, on our trip, we didn't see that. But I mean, there are some surreal things. Like one day, we were driving to one of our serving destinations, and a motorcycle passed us, and there's a guy sitting backwards on it with a shotgun. So just kind of a random thing you don't see here on 95, right?
Not without Sheriff Staley coming to go,
Right,
"Woo, woo, woo,"
exactly.
you know.
So you do see some things that are a little bit out of our what you're used to.
Did the experience strengthen your relationship as father and son in any surprising ways?
Yeah, no doubt that that time was a good bonding time for us. We were away from the distractions of everyday life, and we were focused more on service and serving others. And there's a bond there. You feel with anybody when you're doing something together and you're doing it to help other people. You can't help but feel good about what you're doing together, right? And when that's my son, and from my side as a father, there's no doubt that strengthens that bond. But also, we strengthened our bond with our heavenly Father as
Hmm.
well. You know.
I know you had to balance family because you had another son at home, right? How did you? I mean, I know he was at home going, I want to be with daddy. I want to go. So, I mean, you have to do something special for him. How did you balance that, and how
Well,
you working through that so there's no jealousy or anything like
well,
that?
my amazing wife took care of that.
She took it. Oh, I know she did.
She took him up camping into North Carolina and
Oh, wow.
whitewater rafting. So she kept it. And we now have two teenagers in the house. She's already
Hmm.
she's already has empty nester anxiety. So she's
Already.
trying to spend every second she can with them while they still want to hang out with us. So, but he does have a desire to also to go on a mission trip, and next year he will be that age, and if he feels God's calling him to do that, I'd be inclined to take him. So.
God is so good. God is definitely so good. When you look at what has happened in our local community as you going out on mission trip, can you think of anything locally that have impacted you, that you see as missions?
hmm Well, there are different types of missions. You have local, you have national and international, right? And
Hmm.
what we described as an international mission trip. But, out of our first trip from Guatemala, that team that I was part of, we when we came back, we said, you know what? We don't want to break up as a team, and we started our own local missions team right here in Flagler County, and it's still going to this day. Which serves people in Bunnell and everywhere, wherever there's need. They're out on the weekends, helping people fix their house, whatever the need is. So it's important to also cross the street. We with international missions, we're willing to go far, but we can't forget that our neighbors across the street could also use some help.
All right. Well, we got to take another break. It wasn't just about the geography, it definitely was about service. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Today with Pastor Jay. It was time for another break, right? Oh, I got confused. I'm trying to time myself.
Okay.
Am I doing better with the timing? Okay. I think I need to thank my sponsors now.
Does that
Okay.
does that help your producers out when you time yourself?
He's the producer. You have to ask him.
Is she doing a good job, Mark?
I'm
Okay. He
trying.
says you are.
Look, okay. Okay, you ready? Welcome back. Welcome back. We've heard about the mission trip, the heart behind it, and how it has shaped Will and his son. But now let's bring it home a little bit. How can listeners, what can they do to get involved in
Sure.
mission work,
hmm Well,
locally or abroad? I
mhm.
mean, like you said, we have got a lot of stuff going on here.
There are some different ways. One of the first ways is to plug in with your local church. That is a great way. Also, there are organizations out there like Samaritan's Purse and some others that you can get involved with, and you can just not everything has to be specifically tied to a church to serve your community, right? There are volunteer organizations that have a list of needs in the community that you can go down there and say, hey,
Hmm.
what does somebody need today, and go fill that need. So that would be my advice to those that are looking to serve either locally or to go as far as internationally. And I think everybody should do every Christ follower should go on at least one mission trip in their life, because God has called us. And And that is one thing is that I don't know if if I was called to do that. Well, I can pretty much speak for to say that you were called, because the Great Commission is a great commission and it's
Is
called to all
correct.
followers. So I recommend,
Go ye.
yes, and
Hmm.
go and make disciples of all
That's
nations,
right.
right? So I do recommend that everybody at least do it at least one time and see where God takes you
So,
from
what's
there.
your advice for families who want to serve together? I mean, because this was the first time you took your son. What's your advice?
I think it's wonderful. I think families should find opportunities to serve others together. In this world, we we're so distracted with all of our devices and things like that, and and oftentimes, families are all in the same house, but they're all in different rooms doing different things. You know,
And you serve locally with your family too.
we do, and actually, our
Cleaning yards, serving meals. I mean, you've done
yeah,
tons of things.
there's lots of things that that we've done, and but even our church, Epic Church, they have what they call 3G Saturday and 3G Sunday, and that's when our congregation gathers. It stands for gather, go, and give, right? And we do beach cleanup. We help the Family Life Center. We go to these different nonprofits, or even the Flagler schools. We
Hmm.
beautify the schools. So there's ways to get involved. You just got to get out there and look for it, right?
Right. So, how do we keep the spirit of service alive in our everyday lives?
I think it's, well, for people of faith. I think it's, staying in prayer, and remembering that Jesus came to serve, not be served,
Hmm.
right? So again, I oftentimes hear believers, and believe me, I'm not trying. I've had my journey, right? I'm not saying that I've had. It took me 40 years to figure this out. So, and I'm 50 now. So just do the math.
I think
So
I'm still figuring it
right,
out.
but I
Right.
mean, but once you see, I remember, some people say, well, why don't I have the blessings? But their blessings are because they think their blessings are things that they want, and but the reality is, Pastor Tony Evans, I remember one time he said his answer to that was, if you want God's blessings to come to you, let Him work through you. And I've seen God bless me in so many ways since I started serving others and doing it in His name and giving Him the glory and the credit for it.
That's true. What's the biggest change you noticed in yourself after this particular trip?
The biggest change, boy, I tell you, well, um, I change. I hope to change every day for the better, um, and be a little bit better today than I was yesterday, right?
Yep.
And if there's one thing um, that I'd have to pick from this trip, was to focus on obedience, right?
Mm,
Aware of what God wants you to do, and less of what you want to do. Seek His path, and that is something that you'll come to learn as you serve in the name of Christ. Is that He doesn't always call the equipped; He equips the called.
amen to that. Well, Guatemala may be thousands of miles away, but its impact definitely is local. So thank you so very much, Will, for sharing with us. And hopefully and prayerfully, you sparked something powerful in our listeners today. Purpose starts with awareness and grows through action. And so I want to leave you with something very real. Yesterday's gone, tomorrow's not promised. Today's story wasn't just Will's, it was a mirror, a reminder that service, family, and faith are always calling us forward. So I ask you, the same way I ask myself, yesterday is gone, tomorrow isn't promised. What are you going to do today? Today, you commit to stepping outside your comfort zone. Maybe you mentor someone, volunteer, or simply listen with empathy. Whatever it is, don't wait. Until next time, I'm Pastor Jay, and this has been Today with Pastor Jay. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.